So the election's over. We want to talk to you today about the impact of the election results on women's mental health, give you some examples of things that we're seeing and the impact of social media on women's mental health related to the election. And also at the end, give you some tips for helping your mental health if you are struggling related to the election results. I'm Dr. Nichelle Haynes,
I'm Dr. Kristen Lassiter,
and this channel is Medical Mamas. We give you the real deal information about your reproductive mental health.
meaning mental health in relation to reproductive hormone changes like pregnancy, postpartum, menopause, premenstrual disorders, and infertility.
Based in science. So, as you probably know, Donald Trump is going to be our next president.
And this is having a big impact on some women.
Of
I would say
course.
all,
I
some.
I will say that, I'm seeing in my practice even people who may have voted for him or have a more right political affiliation are seeing some impacts because the way other people are responding to the election.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. So what I'm seeing is a lot of fear about what's going to happen next and fear about how, like I said, some people are responding and emboldened to say sort of things that aren't awesome.
Yeah, and I think to also add in our practice, so we deal a lot with women's mental health in relation to pregnancy and postpartum and pregnancy loss and miscarriage
And
and
infertility.
and infertility. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of patients who have already been struggling with, really wanting another child or their first child, and all of these kind of abortion laws that are coming into place, especially here in Texas.
Mhm.
And I think that's having a really big impact on anxiety for women who are considering
Mhm.
having a baby.
Right, right, exactly. And having these strict rules around when you can and cannot get medical care, especially if things are medically necessary for you to survive, maybe an ectopic pregnancy or,
Sepsis, or
sepsis
you
or,
get a really bad infection from
yeah,
like a miscarriage.
yeah. I mean, there's a million reasons. We don't need to go into all of them that they're not being able to access healthcare, and people have died because of it, or people have to go out of state to receive care. That's very necessary and traumatic, and they're worried that might happen to them or that, you know, may happen again to them.
Yeah, and I think outside of the abortion issue for women, it's also for some of the women, I think also there have been more men out there who've been more
Vocal.
vocal about their misogyny and almost as they see like Trump winning as a right for them to be able to kind of speak their mind, or that somehow validates their belief in misogyny. And I think that that's kind of taken a toll on a lot of women's mental health
Hmm.
as well.
Hmm.
And it might not be accurate, like those men, like Trump winning might not be that like misogyny is reigning.
Right, but it definitely allows some people who have those beliefs to be more vocal about them. I think that segues really nicely into social media's role because it's really easy for people on social media to gain more attention from one statement.
Yes, and we're seeing on social media that there's been several trends, one
Hmm.
of them being some men kind of trolling some women in terms of the statement of your body, my choice, and
Hmm.
saying that, now that Trump is going to be president, it gives them more rights to treat women in,
Really heinous ways.
I don't
Yes.
even know how to describe the
Right.
ways.
Right. I'm not, yeah, you know what we're talking about. And there have been I've seen numerous examples. I mean, I don't know if you're seeing these examples. If you are, maybe comment below where you've seen them. We
Yeah,
don't
that
want
would
to give them more of a voice, but I think it is important for people to believe that this is happening.
Well,
right?
and maybe share your own experience too in the comments. I would be interested to hear what other people
Hmm.
are noticing too.
Right. Yeah. If you are seeing these kinds of things, I am. Let us know. I'm not sure if maybe it's sort of the world that I live in where I kind of have a bubble of people who really disagree with that and they're, bringing attention to it. But yeah, it's really easy for those kinds of things to be spread across more eyes and ears seeing them. So social media has kind of increased a lot of the fear that I've, seen with my patients over the last few days since the election. And, they're really, really bothered by that. I mean, I have patients who have experienced SA and they are worried that more men will feel emboldened to do those things again. And of course, that leads to fear. So it's definitely something that is causing a negative impact for a lot of people, no matter where they stand in the political spectrum.
And I think for some women, because this feels like a big loss of control, some women are trying to turn to
Hmm.
ways to gain control, such as like the 4B movement that
Hmm.
we've been seeing more on social media too
Hmm.
in America.
Right. So, just for some context, the 4B movement started in South Korea in the late 2010s. It was a movement started by South Korean women as a way of attaining more autonomy over their bodies and as a statement against the misogyny, like the patriarchy, the gender divide, right? Like sort of women supposed to be staying at home and marrying men and having their babies. So the 4B movement, I think it stands for no romantic relationships, no sex,
No
no
having
children, no
children,
marriage,
marriage.
right? And so within that movement, they are creating female based communities where they are receiving more support from women and sort of choosing to disengage from the ideas in their society that are not serving them.
Yeah. And I totally get that idea of like wanting to kind of take back this power or just have power. I don't know if we
Hmm.
could take it back. I
Yeah.
don't know if we've ever had it.
Yep.
But just wanting to kind of have a say in what's going on in a society and political temperature where we don't really have that right
Hmm.
now as much.
Right.
But for me, I think that in a way that kind of further divides
Hmm.
our country and like men against women
Hmm.
and kind of this gender bias or you know like sexism. And I think that there are more healthy ways to kind of cope with what is going
Hmm.
on. And there are a lot of men and women out there who do not support kind of the misogyny that is going on,
Sure.
obviously.
Of course.
And so to like ban relationships with all men just seems, I don't know, like you're like pitting genders against each other in a way that might not be healthy.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. I personally believe like if you if that's what you would like to do and that makes you feel best, go ahead, right? It's not bothering me any. That if it's well thought out and you've kind of looked at the pros and cons of this and you've decided that that works for you, that is fine with me. I think the issue is not that this is happening, right? If you were asking other people to do that and that wasn't what was right for them,
Right.
right? So the 4B movement has been gaining some traction here in the United States. I wouldn't be surprised if there's pockets of, people doing this. I think it is pretty difficult to not engage with men at all. But if that's what they want to do and that works for their life, that's fine. I think that it is some very rigid boundary setting and that may not work for everyone, but if that's what works for them, that's totally whatever. I don't
Yeah,
care.
there might be better boundaries that people can
Yeah.
do,
Yeah,
in
of
my
course.
opinion.
Of course. And then another thing that we saw that's actually pretty close to us, it's maybe, 30, 40 minutes down the road, is the protests that happened at Texas State. It is university in San Marcos, Texas. I think what I had seen is a couple of people, not that many, thank goodness, a couple of people who were having some signs that said, essentially women are property.
And then some other signs against like homosexuality and
Hmm.
they were kind of and yeah, and I think it was just like 2 or 3
Hmm.
men who were doing this, and so, I don't think that that should be a reflection of, like, the university in
No,
itself,
no, and
and
on that same context, that what I had seen online, I'm not 100% sure this is true, but I do believe that this makes sense, that it was the students of the university who really did not they were not cool with the protests and they pretty much shut it down. So I think that is a statement to the university that there are enough students there who would stand up for women and say, like, absolutely not, women are not property, and tell those people, like, you're not welcome. Those ideas are not welcome here.
yeah, which is awesome.
Yeah, I think that's great. So those are, those things are trending. And so we're seeing a lot more of that. I think it is sort of concentrating some of the negative ideas that exist within some of the people who vote a certain way, but it's not necessarily indicative of everyone who votes that way. But we're just seeing a lot of it. And I think it's, they're being emboldened to do these things. And I think no matter which way you vote, that we need to reject those ideas that it's like your body, my choice, or women are property. And we all know that's not true. And these are the fears that people have had from the election, that these things will happen and they are happening. And we all need to come together and say, that's that's not acceptable here.
I also wonder, though, if, like, social media, it's kind of like grabbing at the crazy things that people are doing, and
Hmm.
then just in, like, everyday life, this isn't necessarily most people's experience, but leave your comment. Let us know what's been your experience, like we said earlier, because I mean, for me, like I haven't noticed anything different other than, a lot of fear with my
Hmm.
patients, which
Hmm.
is totally understandable.
Yeah.
But is that fear, based on like these crazy headlines or these crazy stories that are coming out?
Hmm.
Or is it based on like what is likely to happen or what is
Hmm.
happening in the
Hmm.
US?
That's so interesting that you say that because that's essentially a CBT technique,
Mm-hmm.
right? Reality testing, right? Is this thought or this fear based in reality? And right now, we don't really know because a lot of these things we are seeing them. So is it just, 10 people in the world who are kind of being jerks? Or is it more representative of how a lot of people feel it? We're just not sure. And I think that's where the fear comes in for me, particularly. So that's one of the CBT techniques, like reality test. Is
Yeah.
it real? Is it not? Is that
Yeah.
just something based in your fear or not? Yeah.
Yeah, and if you're a mental health provider, I mean, obviously we can understand the struggle that mental health providers are going through right now in terms of
Hmm.
managing like their own fears, but also just helping with like reality testing, evidence-based thoughts and all of this stuff. Like it's just an unknown time and that can be really stressful
Hmm.
for everyone.
Right, right, exactly. Okay, so we did promise you some techniques to help you manage if you are feeling fearful or if you are seeing these things and it is bothering you.
Or some techniques that you can help share with women in your life who maybe are struggling more too.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I think there are also other communities who are struggling, right? Like LGBTQIA plus communities, specifically trans individuals, I think are, rightfully fearful at this time.
Yeah, and communities in terms of like racial minorities, yeah,
Religious minorities,
religious minorities.
those with
There's
disabilities, I think there's,
any minority,
yeah, really, and yeah,
basically.
yeah. So women are, a minority, and well, maybe
Although
they're
not
not,
technically.
but you know what I mean. So yeah, share with your people who need to hear these things. I'll leave in the show notes the timing for all of these things. You can just send this to your friend and say like, hey, go to the whatever this timestamp is, and just watch that if that's what you need to see. Because the other stuff, maybe it's not for everyone.
Yeah, so one tip that we like to tell people is to surround yourself with a community of people and, supportive people who are like-minded in, what you're going through, that feel like a safe space to support your feelings and kind of your thoughts on this. You know, it makes it makes this time much more difficult when you're talking with people who disagree with you
Mhm.
because it can feel really invalidating and kind of spark up a lot more anger
Mhm.
and resentment. And this is a time, I think, while we're all kind of processing what's going on in our country, to just be more supportive and help each other out and be
Mhm.
with people who are going to validate what you're going through.
Right, right. And if that's not possible, to find a common ground. Like this is something we can agree on, right?
Yeah.
Like we are scared. We are, whatever. I agree that this other thing is bad or good or whatever, right? If you can't be in safe space communities, at least find things to find common ground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And similarly with, being in a validating environment, also validating your own feelings and
Mhm.
your own emotions. I think that that is something that is helpful no matter what you're going through in life, but
Mhm.
that's even more helpful when it's times of huge stress rather than shutting down what you're feeling.
Right, exactly. Just kind of a to be on that one is to add maybe focusing on gratitude. Like all of these things may feel really terrible and we can access and honor our feelings about those and simultaneously find gratitude in I do have a community or I'm doing what I can or there have been some things that came out of November 5th that have been really lovely like having two black women in what was it, the House or the Senate, I can't
Hmm.
remember, at the same time. I mean that's wonderful. And many states encoded the right to a safe abortion and we can find gratitude for things that are good and also honor the feelings. Just
Yeah,
add that to number two.
absolutely.
So, number three, I think is really important as well, is avoiding the things that are not going to help your mental health. This includes getting drunk. This includes, substances that are sort of helping you numb. This includes scrolling on social media to kind of find some reassuring information when there might not be any right now for you.
Yeah, really recognizing like what is that thing that you turn to kind of help soothe yourself? And is that thing really helpful in the long term? Like, yes, that chocolate ice cream or that glass of wine feels great.
Hmm.
And yes, you deserve that sometimes, but in times of stress and when things are really hard, those things can actually harm your brain more and make mental illness more prevalent
Hmm.
and give it an environment to kind of fester in almost.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so really limiting those things, even though it feels good right now, trying to find other healthy, natural things that soothe you and
Hmm.
make you feel good.
Right. Like, if you are going to turn to cigarettes or you're going to turn to alcohol or whatever the thing is for you, right? Maybe slowing down, taking a pause and going for a 5-minute walk or saying, if I still want this tomorrow, I'll reassess. Kind of just giving yourself some space to decide rather than automatically go to the thing
Yeah,
as a,
reacting.
yeah, sort of as a habit. So just kind of being more intentional there, I think could be really helpful. So those are some tips to be helpful. Please know that if you are feeling fearful, you are not alone. If you are, worried or concerned or, neutral about it, there are people who feel the same way as you. And I hope you find those people to be talking to and to support yourself, and that we're not giving the people who are creating problems more of a platform to voice their opinion.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for being here. Please comment. Let us know what you're seeing. Let us know if this was helpful.
Also, let us know what videos you want to see over these next couple of weeks. We're open
Mhm.
to doing more content on what you're interested in. So, there's a lot of new people, new subscribers here. So, definitely let us know what you like, and we'll do a video on it.
All right. Thank you for being here. See you soon.
Bye.